Okay, we're going to get started. Hey, Emilio. Everyone, my name is Andy Furman. I'm the president of South Florida Aquatic Plant Management Society. I want to thank Emilio and I want to thank Colleen for setting this up. Just want everyone to know who is on. You're eligible for one aquatic or one right-of-way CEU, which I know we're all looking for. But it's very important that you stay and pay attention for the whole hour, because there's going to be 2 polling questions during the course of this hour-long presentation. So make sure that you're there and answer both those questions so you're eligible for your CEUs. We are also very much looking forward to our next in-person meeting. I know we promised one, but we didn't. It fell through because of attendance issues. But on February 24th, 2022, a volunteer park implantation, where we've had meetings before, we're going to have an in-person meeting. We have some great speakers lined up for that one, and we're looking forward to seeing all your happy, smiling faces. With that, I want to introduce our speaker for the day, Mr. Emilio Lopez, who's the co-founder of SOP Technologies. After patenting a technology to prevent leaves, litter, and debris from entering stormwater systems and discharge to waterways, he looks to continue achieving the company's mission to stop ocean pollution. He works with municipal public works departments, stormwater engineers, environmental community members, and technology companies to design, manufacture, and implement technology and address global water pollution issues. The technologies he has developed have been awarded as innovative stormwater best management practices by the American Public Works Association. Mr. Lopez has diverse experience working with Fortune 500 companies such as Google and KPMG, as well as technology startups. His expertise includes physical and digital technologies, and he has been interviewed on NPR and nationally on Telemundo. He is a seasoned speaker and regularly presents to stormwater and public work professionals, environmental groups, and others interested in learning about and addressing water pollution issues. So we're very lucky to have Emilio here today. We want to thank you very much. I know everyone's looking forward to this. We have 163 people on already, and we'll probably have more than that. So we truly appreciate you taking the time to speak to our organization. Thank you, Emilio.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate your time, and for all of you attendees. Now it's already 165, so 2 more people joined just now. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for your time, everyone. I hope that you find this valuable, inspiring, so you can take some action and informative. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. So please bear with me for 1 second while I do this. Okay, Andy or Colleen, can you confirm that my screen is visible to the audience?
Yes, I can see it on my end.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's get started. Again, a big thank you to the South Florida Aquatic Plant Management Society. Colleen has been instrumental in making this happen. She's behind the scenes, but I guarantee you that she has done a lot of work for this, and I appreciate, Colleen, everything that you've done. And Andy, thanks for that great intro. So,
you know, a little before you start, did Andy talk about the polling questions?
Yes, he said there would be a couple.
Okay, awesome. So you'll prompt me, everyone. You need to stay on for the full amount of time to be able to get your FTAX credit if you're here as an aquatic applicator. We do require, and we will get audited by FTAX to make sure that you attended the full hour. The polling questions are very important. Emilio, you will prompt us when it's time, and I'll let you go.
Awesome, thank you. So a little bit about the organizations that I'm involved with. Obviously, the company SOP Technologies, also the APWA, the local chapter here in South Florida, the Biscayne Bay Marine Health Coalition. So I've been involved with this group of volunteers for the past 4 years. And essentially, we try to improve the health of Biscayne Bay, our local watershed here in the Miami area. And also, I've taken different stormwater trainings. If you think about how my day is split up, part of it is in the engineering, mechanical engineering side of things with product design. I also meet with our manufacturers, and again, the focus is stormwater. So sometimes I'm out in the field meeting, especially with maintenance folks, and seeing storm drain infrastructure for solutions. And then also the community collaboration side of things, because what we're really aiming to do here is address stormwater pollution issues. As Andy mentioned, the mission of SOP Technologies is in our name, and that's to stop ocean pollution. And we do this with different technologies. So what we have is our patented storm drain filters. So here's one photo as an example. This is a basket that would go underneath the grates. And the intent here is to trap the larger items like the leaves, cigarette butts, things of that nature. Also, we have curb filters. So these will go at the curb openings at the street level for the same purpose, catch basin systems as well. This particular one here was custom designed for a customer in Michigan. And we really started with shop drawings that they had from their as-builts. And then from there, we used CAD modeling to essentially build this product and ship it out, and they installed it on their own. On the digital side of things, we have our storm drain markers with QR codes. So this is very new. And essentially, it goes on the storm drain, like other storm drain markers. And this one allows anybody with a cell phone to point their camera to it, scan that QR code. They go to a website, and they're able to upload a photo of what they're seeing. They're able to learn about stormwater issues specific to that community. So let me show you a quick story from Local 10 News. This is back in September. And this will help to give a good summary of what we do, why we do it, and who we work with.
Swept away into our waterways and our bays during storms.
It's a big problem, and while one city prepares for this proven effective tool, another city just got them installed and has gone high-tech to stop pollution. It's tonight's Don't Trash Our Treasure.
It's a big day in the city of Hallandale Beach.
It's been taking a while to get this project actually rolling, but to see it's going right now, I am extremely excited.
After months of planning, the first of these high-tech screens are finally being installed at the open curb inlets along the 800 block of Parkview Drive.
We have so much debris going into the intercoastal, into our waterways, so we're trying to protect that.
And that's exactly why these screens were designed, to trap all the street litter before it enters the stormwater system, where it eventually flushes out into waterways and the intercoastal. It is a big win for the environment.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
All right.
Emilio Lopez is the CEO and co-founder of SOP Technologies, who developed the filters to not only reduce pollution in the stormwater system, but to also allow stormwater to flow freely and prevent street flooding.
What we patented is the upward flow of water through the screen. So the water comes down and up. This design has a much greater open area for water flow.
They're also designed to stop deadly organics from getting through. These leaves and lawn clippings may look harmless, but they're actually ticking time bombs.
So as you can see here, water is taking these leaves into the storm drain system. Eventually this leads to Biscayne Bay. And as you know, when this decomposes, it becomes a nutrient.
Phosphorus and nitrogen, deadly nutrients that feed algae growth in our bay and waterways and kill the seagrass.
You need to prevent the organics from getting into the waters because they decompose. So leaves, which is a majority of what we actually capture in front of the storm drains.
The screens already have a proven track record. They were installed along Duval Street in Key West in 2016. 40 were installed in South Miami in 2018. Aventura installed them citywide in 2019. Soon, they'll finally be installed in the city of Miami. 1,000 of them have already been ordered.
It's extremely important. We have 28,000 catch basins in the city, and every single one of them is contributing to the problem by allowing nutrients, debris to get into Biscayne Bay.
On this day, the open inlets along Southwest 16th Street and 27th Avenue were being measured for the custom screens. It'll take 4 to 6 weeks to manufacture them. 250 screens for each of Miami's 4 districts. The first batch to be installed in District 2, downtown Miami, and the Biscayne Bay corridor.
We have a lot of areas in the city where we know they're hot spots because of the amount of debris that gets clogged in the system, and we have to keep coming in and cleaning it multiple times a year.
And now Public Works can actually track the trashiest storm drains. Each new screen comes with a QR code that residents can scan with their smartphone and upload pictures to report clogged screens that need to be cleaned.
Is there an area of the city that we notice consistently there's a lot of trash and debris? And if that's the case, then maybe we need to have other methods to address the problem at the root.
More garbage cans, no littering signs, tools to attack the street trash before it gets in here and out here.
It's over 100 pounds per storm drain per year that we're preventing from getting into the storm drain system.
Giving the Bay a fighting chance to heal.
I'm born and raised in South Florida. We don't want to see pollution in our oceans and waterways, and this is great that we're finally starting to take measures to help reduce the pollution and reduce the flooding that's been occurring here for many years.
All right. So the reason I showed that video is because Louis Aguirre, the reporter, is much better at saying this, sharing this story than I am. So I hope that was a good overview. So why should we address stormwater pollution? So some of you may not know this image. So this image was taken in 1990 by the Voyager 1 spacecraft. This was sent out into space, and this was from about 3.7 billion miles away from Earth. And that little dot, that's Earth. And there's a really good quote from Carl Sagan, the astronomer. And I'll read it out quickly. There's perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. These are really powerful words. I love this quote. And it really talks about why we should do our part, right? We don't have another home. This is the only place that we have. So we need to cherish Earth. We need to protect it. So what are we talking about? We're talking about protecting the plants, protecting our waterways, protecting life at sea, on land, also being able to enjoy Earth, right? And what it has to offer, have community, and of course, also protect what we eat, right? We're part of this ecosystem. We're all one. We share everything. Now, if you've seen some of these images before, that's because all of them are from the Hydrophyte magazine. So we're pretty aligned in what we're trying to accomplish here and the reasons why. Another big thing that is often not talked about is the economic benefits of waterways. So giving as an example, Biscayne Bay, the local watershed here in the Miami area, this generates a lot of money and jobs for the local economy. So a 2004 study showed that it generates about $6.9 billion in income, okay? Thousands of jobs in recreation, fishing, shipping, okay? So when you're thinking about protecting the bay and local waterways, you're also talking about protecting the economy. Let me go here to the next slide. A little more detailed analysis specifically to the benefits of protecting a local watershed. Here's from Chesapeake Bay, Maryland. They had a plan, and they said if we implement this plan, we can benefit our economy by $22 billion a year. So we're talking about additional value for real estate, for the homes, cleaner waters to attract more recreational activities, farms that have waters that are more productive. Here's a little bit about the finances on that. Now, for all of these slides, we will be sharing them with Colleen, and we'll share them with you. Notice that there's sources on the bottom. So if you want to do a little bit more research on your own, please feel free to do that. Another thing, as I mentioned earlier, before we started the webinar, we do want to have a good Q&A. So if you see on your Zoom interface, you see that there's a Q&A option. Add your questions in there. Also use the chat to engage with each other throughout the presentation. And then Colleen will review this and she'll ask me the questions that she sees that pop up. So what are some of the pollutants that get into the storm drains? Let's look at this first from a global level. Globally, there's a lot of emphasis on plastics. Why? Because they end up floating out further out into the ocean. They don't decompose that quickly. They're plastics for many, many, many years that are out there. Even from the 50s, they've actually found plastics that haven't really fully decomposed. Now, a lot of this actually starts on land. This includes the microplastics, the really small things. You have paints, cosmetics, building materials, textiles, plastic pellets. And then you also have what's called the macro, right? Plastic bags, bottles. And those eventually can actually decompose further and become the micro. So globally speaking, over 80% of the ocean's plastics comes from land-based sources. And this is actually an opportunity for us, because especially if you work in the area of aquatic plant management, or if you work for a municipality and you manage stormwater systems, or you interface with the people that do, this is an opportunity to actually take action and address this global problem. At a global scale, it was estimated that between 19 and 23 million metric tons of plastics get into the ocean, and that's every year. Another problem that this causes is that the marine life, including birds, they confuse this for food. So I'll show you some pretty gross photos right now. These are the only ones that I'll show, but I think it's very important for you to see some of them. So here's a photo of fish with plastics that were removed from its guts. Turtles as well. And by the way, with turtles, the way their digestive system works, apparently it's hard for them to remove these plastics once they get in. So they confuse them for food, they consume them, and they actually stay inside their body. This photo here is of a bird. This particular photo is of a bird in Midway Island, which is way out in the Pacific, very far away from any city. But there are a lot of birds there that are found with plastics in their digestive system. Narrowing it a bit now to the United States, here's some information from the EPA on non-point source pollution. So this is like, point source is when you have, for example, a factory that the factory is dumping some type of a toxin, or an individual that is purposefully doing some illicit dumping. Non-point source is more distributed. And you have things such as sediments, oils, pesticides, road salts, viruses, you have the nutrients that come in, heavy metals, right? Even thermal pollution. So these are just some examples of pollution in an urban area. This graphic also from the EPA gives you a better sense of all the different ways that pollution can get into the waterways. So here you have where the red pickup truck is at, you have the illegal dumping, which is more purposeful. Sometimes you have litter that just flies out of trucks and cars by mistake because they're not properly secured. You have overflowing trash cans, and then when it rains, that flows into the storm drain systems. Events often lead to a lot of localized trash, and people just being careless, also, letting their trash go on the road. So a lot of this then flows into the waterways. In addition to being an aesthetic problem, an economic problem, even an environmental problem from the health side of things, it's also a human health issue. And here you have information as well. Again, we have sources for this showing that you have closing of beaches due to pollution. Also, people that swim in front of storm drains, they're likely actually receiving a lot more contaminants than people that swim further away. There's a very clear link here. So if you care about people's health, if you care about your local economy, if you care about protecting marine life, there are many reasons for addressing stormwater pollution. Another one is that it causes flooding, specifically with the bigger items. So this is from the City of North Miami's website, where they're talking about leaves and grass clippings. So what ends up happening here is that this accumulates and it clogs up the pipes. So here's a photo of a storm drain. This is not North Miami, but it is in Dade County, showing a lot of litter inside one of these storm drains inside the catch basin. So after it went into the inlet, this is accumulated in the basin structure. A little bit more about stormwater and the link between debris and clogged drains. Here's a couple of news stories. On the bottom right, you see clogged drains may have been the cause for most of the flooding in a specific scenario there. And this is very generalized. So you have stories from Tampa, in Florida, you have California, Colorado, even Malaysia, we found a news story. And so this is very, very well documented. So if you need another reason to show your community members why it's important to address this problem or to implement solutions, flooding is one of them. Narrowing it a bit more now to Florida. So how much trash and debris enters the storm drains? So what we did is where we have our filters installed, we actually swept in front to figure out what is it that we are actually blocking from getting into the stormwater systems. We did this at several cities, and by far the grand majority of what we capture in terms of the solids is leaves, and this contributes to nutrient pollution, specifically phosphorus and nitrogen. It's a big problem. Also litter. We're talking cigarette butts, plastic straws, cans, plastic bottles. More recently, in the past couple of years, as you can imagine, because of COVID, we've also seen a lot of masks. So per inlet per year, it's about 175 pounds of leaves, which is a lot of nutrients, and also trash. And if you plug this into the DEP calculator, which I'll talk about in a minute, you also can then figure out what does that represent in terms of total phosphorus and total nitrogen, things that are very important. I'm sure a lot of you understand the need for keeping the proper nutrient balances for watersheds. Focusing again on the leaves and organics, USGS, they actually did a lot of analysis on this. On the left side, you have one of our stormwater filter baskets. You see a Pepsi bottle there, but a lot of what was inside that basket accumulated after a couple of months was leaves and organics. So from the USGS, while the sources of nutrients to urban stormwater are many, a primary contributor is often decaying organic matter like leaves. The word decaying is important because if you allow the leaves to fall inside a catch basin, for example, and they're sitting in water, they'll decompose, right? Then it becomes a lot harder to collect this. Or if it flows out into a canal, by the time it gets there, a lot of it is already starting to decompose. So this is why it's important to have a leaf removal program and collecting these solids as quickly as you can while they're still solid. The USGS, in one of their analyses, they found that with an active leaf litter removal program, they were able to dramatically reduce the phosphorus in a waterway. Here's some more photos. So these are curb filters, and you can see in front of them some plastics, but you see a lot of leaves. Again, nutrients is a big problem. This is kind of representative of what we see when we look at the whole of every time we go out there. We see a lot of organics, we see some plastics, some litter. Here's some more sources. Leaf litter has been reported to be one of the main contributors to dissolved organic nitrogen in one of the studies. And they say here, leaf litter spikes stormwater systems and watersheds with nutrients during and after rainfall, especially when it gathers along street curbs. And excess phosphorus and nitrogen often lead to major water quality problems for municipalities. So again, all of this is very important information, hopefully, for you. So Colleen, do you want to take it away with this polling question?
Yeah, okay. So we're going to give everyone about a minute to answer this polling question. Again, not a very difficult question. It's just to make sure that everyone is still listening and attending the course so you can get your credit. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it. You have about 45 seconds to a minute to answer it. You should see it pop up on your screen. So it's a fun question. If you could have one superpower, which would you choose? So we got some. I'm actually interested to see what everyone wants to do. No one wants some superhuman strength? I'm kind of shocked.
I'm actually upset because it says that hosts and panelists can't vote. I wanted to fly.
I think that would be fun, right? I think we were promised flying cars by this time, 2020, right? I haven't seen a flying car yet. Tesla will come out with it, I'm sure.
I'll settle for autonomous.
If you guys are unable to answer the polling question due to some technical issues, you're more than welcome to go ahead and put it in the chat. Again, if you have any, we're at 50 seconds, so please make sure you're answering these questions, this polling question. Remember, if you have any questions, please put it in the question and answer section, not the chat, because it just kind of gets lost in the chat area. So please make sure that we have one question when it does come time for questions, Emilio.
Okay.
So let's close this polling. Hopefully everyone got to answer. The winner of it actually was being able to fly. So nice. That's everyone's wish. So let's end this. Okay. Okay. Emil, you might have to refresh your screen because you got those black squares in there again.
Oh, okay. I think those are some pop-ups that I have here. Let's see. How about now? Is it off to the right side?
It's off to the right side.
Okay, cool. So I'll minimize it. These are the questions actually from the Q&A. So should I go ahead and maybe answer a couple of them?
I think there's 3 there. Well, one was a polling question, but there are 2 there that are valid questions. So if you want to go ahead and address those now, you're more than welcome to.
Awesome, we'll do. Okay, so Rivero, thanks a lot for the question, Rivero Alfredo. The question is there any plan to install these devices in Miami-Dade County unincorporated areas? Actually, we're currently talking to Miami-Dade County Public Works. I've sent them over some shop drawings already, pricing information. We have a few sites selected for a pilot project. So the answer is yes. And that's an initial start for unincorporated Miami-Dade County. Within the county, as you saw in the news story, several cities have already installed this type of solution, the stormwater filters. Another one here from Heather. Can you explain what happens to the leaves and organic matter after it's collected in the leaf litter collection program? Where does it go? How is it disposed of? This is actually not in my wheelhouse too much, so I don't want to get too specific with this. If anybody in the chat actually has specific examples and you would like to share those with Heather in the chat, please feel free to do so. I think it's very important for us to share what we know. I do understand that the collection happens using sweepers, for example, and they do a lot of analysis to these companies. They'll weigh their trucks so that it helps with NPDES reporting purposes for MS4. There are other efforts that I'm aware of, one specifically with the city of Hallandale Beach and the University of Miami, where they're looking at different ways to dispose of actually sargassum. But this is an ongoing topic of conversation, is can we make better use of what we're collecting in terms of the organic matter? I have asked somebody about the use of this for composting, but because of the heavy metals that are contained in the leaf litter, it's not only the leaves, but also other items that are swept up or vacuumed from the streets during the sweeping efforts. It's not as easy to use that for mulch, for example, and compost. But again, I don't want to get too deep into answering a question that's a little bit out of my area of expertise. So Heather, I hope that was helpful for you. We have another one, Marsha Robinson. Can you tell us more about how they empty the filters that are installed manually or machine, and how often are they cleaned? Okay, so for the baskets that go underneath the grates, that's something that's a little bit newer. So we've been doing a lot of analysis on that manually. However, the types of vacuums that come in the street sweeper trucks, they are actually strong enough to vacuum those out. And that would be the more efficient way to do so. You don't need to have something extremely strong, like from a vac truck that's intended for catch basins and pipes. You can have a slightly less robust vacuum, and that's enough to collect that. Or you can do it manually, but they can get pretty heavy. That basket that you saw there in one of the images, at one point when we lifted it between 2 people, it weighed 98 pounds. Actually, that was the weight of the contents in the basket, and then plus you add the weight of the basket itself. So it was pretty heavy to lift up. But again, manually would not be recommended for that. It can happen, but it's much more efficient to do so with some type of a smaller vacuum. Okay, Brian, are there any plans to install these filters in Central Florida? So right now, no, but we can. We actually have a customer in Maryland, and we have a customer in Australia. We have those stormwater filters manufactured over there, and they're installed locally by their own public works department. So it can be done, and I'll be more than happy to speak with you about doing that. Maria, will you be installing devices in Fort Lauderdale or Broward County? So Hallandale Beach, they've actually already ordered several. We are talking to a few other municipalities. Alan Dodd, who was interviewed by Louis Aguirre in that local 10 News story, he was the city of Miami resilience director, and now he actually went to Fort Lauderdale. So I'm actually looking forward to speaking with Alan and seeing if that is something that he would like to do. The same thing he did in the city of Miami, would he like to do that in Fort Lauderdale? But we're definitely open to doing that. If you have any contacts, please feel free to reach out, and I'm more than happy to connect with them. So it looks like we've got the questions so far answered. Please feel free to continue adding more and adding more to the chat. So I'll go on to the next slide. So you probably know this image here. This is Kevin McAllister from Home Alone. And the question is, how can we prevent pollution from reaching the lakes, rivers, canals, and waterways? This is a listing here of the stormwater program areas from NPDES. There are many of them, too many to cover in 1 hour. We're really going to focus on a few of these in some way, shape, or form: stormwater discharges from municipal sources, from transportation sources, maintenance, and long-term stormwater planning. So there are many options for maintenance or removal. Generally speaking, the closer you are to the source, the real source for litter, of course, is human behavior. Let's not forget that. We need to address those things too. But the source, after things are already on the road and leaves are on the road, that's the closer you are as a street. So street sweeping, lower cost. Then even if you move a little bit further in, right? Once that goes inside the catch basin, especially when it goes into the pipes, your catch basin cleaning, that starts getting more expensive. And then the further out you go, if you go out into the waterway, you might not be able to collect those nutrients very effectively in the waterway with a boat. You can collect your plastics and floatables, but you're talking about higher costs here. There are also many solutions to capture the trash and debris. As you know, our focus is trying to keep it on the street, keep the cost low to collect this. In terms of maintenance, the street sweeping is already enough in front of the screens that keeps them clean. And then we can also provide something inside the catch basin. There are also other companies out there that provide, for example, these hydrodynamic separators, which are a little bit more centralized, much bigger systems for different purposes. You have systems that are further out into the pipes. You have nets in the outfalls, and you also have these booms. So sometimes in canals, I know in Dade County we have several of these. You have booms at the canals that don't allow the floatables and the plastics to continue flowing into Biscayne Bay. Now, something that you'll notice if you ever see one of these locations full of plastics and trash, you notice that you don't see a lot of the organics. And I would say that that's because it's already dissolved. It quickly dissolves, it doesn't stay up there. And things that sink, they're harder to capture. So you want to think about those different strategies and technologies. So what should you consider when you're selecting the technologies to address the debris? So I'll start with a story. So once upon a time, actually it was 2017, at the Biscayne Bay Marine Health Summit. This is a summit, again, I'm part of this organization, and we've held this summit several times. 2017, with about 250 people at FIU. In 2019, we're planning the next one for 2022, end of March. So if you're interested in that as well, please, either follow us on social media or reach out, and I'll let you know once we have the website up and running so we can have registrations. Essentially, we had conversations there with municipalities, we had a lot of academics, all talking about how do we protect Biscayne Bay. And someone that was there was Tony. He's the stormwater manager for the city of Aventura. So I'll talk about Tony, some of the questions that he had for me, some questions that maybe he didn't have that others do ask. So you can understand what are some things to consider when you're trying to implement solutions. Because we met at the summit, and I was talking about our solutions and what we do. So first things first, before you contact vendors, you might want to have an internal meeting of the minds internally. Think about who's going to use the technology. And this can be a physical technology or a digital technology. Don't only think about the decision makers, okay? Who internally and externally may be impacted? Do you have a local volunteer group that might be interested in something like this? Do you have a different group within your organization? You might be in public works, but there may be a separate division for environmental efforts or in your company. Get them involved too in these early conversations. And of course, the people that would decide. Here are some ideas for discussion topics. These will definitely evolve over time. But what goals do you want to achieve? What are some of your existing capabilities that you can continue to work with? And what are your current budgets and timelines? Then Tony and I have a meeting, and it's important to share and ask. So you want to share what are the goals that you're aiming for? Is there alignment between your goals and what different solutions providers can provide for you? The budgets, what are some of your more urgent items? What are the timelines that you're trying to work with? Do you have any likes and dislikes? Have you tried similar types of solutions in the past? This is good to share because maybe certain companies, a product has evolved over time, and now something that used to be problematic is no longer problematic. Or there are certain things that you absolutely don't want to do, or you absolutely do want to do. Have these conversations with these solutions providers. You also want to talk about the process that you have internally. What is the process that you're going to use? And ask, what process the company that you're considering working with has as well. Another question now, a lot of people don't ask me this, and I think it's very important, is what makes your technology different from your competitors' technology? So Tony asking me this question, I was able to say, well, we have a patented upward flow design. This minimizes the clogging of the screen. We're keeping the trash for easy collection on the street level. If you have baskets, easy to vacuum that out, much lower cost than vacuuming an entire catch basin and pipes. We've had lab and field testing done. So Miami-Dade College, we actually worked with them many years ago to do the initial concept of this. FIU, we've done more water flow analysis. I'll say that we have a larger open area for water flow when compared to a standard sheet metal that's perforated. So perforated sheet metal might give you 50–51% maximum open area, and we have about 69% open area. And while we have that larger open area, we actually still stop items that are smaller because of the way our product is designed. Now notice that I'm giving a lot of details here. I'm even talking about competitors. So when you ask the question, what makes you different from a competitor, make note of the different companies that somebody might tell you, because this can help with your own research. There may be a company that you were considering and now you have new information about them, or someone that you didn't even know existed, and then you can research them as well. And another thing I would say is, well, our product doesn't have any moving parts, because when we notice that there are moving parts in the stormwater filters, it seems like a good idea that they open up when a lot of water starts flowing. But what actually ends up happening is that then becomes obstructed with some type of debris, and the trash just keeps on flowing through. Another thing we've noticed from a competitor is that they had very large openings. So that essentially makes at least their curb filters ineffective. Also, they had a one size product, maybe two sizes. And what they were doing is, when we looked at the installations, they actually will fill in with concrete and bricks, the right side and the left side, to fit their product. But what they were actually doing was dramatically reducing the potential area for water flow for that storm drain. What we do is we try to adapt, we go to the closest inch, and that's why we take measurements in the field, so our customers can take the measurements. On the digital side of things, with the storm drain markers, this is unique. Each one of them has a unique code on them, so the serial number, and when somebody scans this, they go to a website that's specific to that client customer organization. So for example, for the storm drain markers in Aventura or Hallandale Beach, depending on where you are, you scan the code, the web app is going to pull up. It's just a website. And on top, you're going to see the city's logo. There's a more customized message from the city there. Another question, you want to know, of course, what makes your technology different, but also your services different. So these are two big differentiators between companies and solution providers. So Tony asking me this, I'll tell Tony, hey, we can do field measurements, so then we can custom fit the product. We'll do the technical designs. So if you need some changes there, from the CAD modeling side, we can already start making changes there. We do the installations of the product. We also, after that, we do follow-on analysis, and we engage with the community. So in addition to being part of the Biscayne Bay Marine Health Coalition, for example, I know a lot of these other folks that are aiming to achieve similar things to protect waterways, Send It for the Seas, Debris-Free Oceans, and different local nonprofits. And of course, as much as possible, while we're doing things, I try to share on social media along the process. And this is actually a good tip for you if you're trying to engage more with your community, whether you're a business or your municipality. Think about what you're already doing, right? I'm a small business owner. I cannot invest so much in every social media post. So I think about what are the activities that I'm already taking. If I'm taking measurements, I'll make a little video and show, hey, we're taking measurements here so that City X can have our stormwater filters to protect the waterways. These are different ways that you can engage with your audience, and we make sure we mention the good work that our cities are doing as much as we can. Another question, what can be customized or changed? On a day-to-day basis, if we're buying a product, let's say on Amazon, we don't think about customizations, right? We think about buying something as is. It comes from the factory, and that's how we use it. But sometimes with certain products, you can actually customize and change them a lot. So have this conversation with your potential solution provider. Don't assume that the way they publicize something is the only way you can get it. So in our conversations with our customers, I would say, we can customize to the dimensions of the inlets. If you want to have an overflow, we can build that in. There are many different ways we can customize the product. In Aventura, for example, with Tony, after a while, they were actually replacing a lot of their storm drains, and they needed to remove these stormwater filters. And we had permanent anchors on there. And Tony said, can we start using some types of screws instead? It's okay. We're not worried about, these things, becoming damaged, but we want to be able to remove them since we're constantly, making upgrades to the system. And I said, okay. So now the future filters that are installed, we use different types of anchors than before. So in our case, we can customize and we can change a lot of this because we're working from the very beginning with sheet metal and CAD modeling. On the digital side with the storm drain markers, if you're purchasing enough of these, then we can also change the text. So we can change the text on top, the little paragraph that's over here to the right side of the QR code, the text on the bottom, to better align with what your city is looking for. And on the website side of things, we can change the text. So on the landing page, we can change the text. And then also afterwards, the information page. So after someone submits a photo and they fill out a very easy form of what they're seeing at the storm drain, they go to another page where they learn more. This is specific to every city, and we can customize that a lot actually. So another question that I don't often get, but is very important, is where can we save money throughout the entire process? And this is why it's good to talk about the process and the details with your solution provider. In our case, I would say bulk field measurements. If you know you need to have hundreds of stormwater filters installed, for example, if we go out there and we do entire days of work, that's going to save a lot of money instead of just doing a few and then manufacturing a few and then shipping a few. So going to the manufacturing side of things, I'll get a little bit more detailed here so you can get a better sense. We start off with a sheet of metal, for example, a 5x10 sheet of aluminum, and that has to get lasered, and then those parts are then removed from that sheet and the product is assembled. So if you're only implementing a small batch of units, then the setup time for that laser machine or the punching machine or the bending or the welding machine in the machine shop, the setup time is really divided only into a few units. But if you have a lot more units, then that setup time happens once and you produce a lot. So this is why we're able to save a lot of cost. For the city of Aventura, for example, when they decided to go citywide a couple of years ago, they saved 7%. Because we were able to reduce our cost dramatically on materials and manufacturing, and we transferred that cost savings to the customer. The same goes with the storm drain markers, volume. You have different tiers of pricing. So ask these questions to your vendors. Where can we save money somewhere, somehow in our process? Another one is planning ahead. So in the case of us and installations, for example, we do maintenance of traffic, right, when we're installing. So if there's an existing roadway project and you know you might want to have some type of solution there, if we don't have to worry about maintenance of traffic, which actually takes up a lot of our time when we're doing installations, then that allows us to just focus on installing. So your cost can go down for installation because of that. So a little bit of planning goes a long way in helping your organization save money. Something else. What are the long-term maintenance and operational needs and costs for that particular product? Sometimes we tend to think of, the product and right now, what are the dollars that I'm spending today? But think about the life cycle of the entire product. Is this going to last 10, 20, 50 years? How much is it going to cost me in the long run? Maybe that will change your decision-making once you find out the financials in the long run. So this table on the right side is a very good one from Professor Sansaloni from the University of Florida. And he looked at many MS4s in Florida and gave this report to Florida DEP. And essentially, it shows for different maintenance practices, how much does it cost to capture total nitrogen, total phosphorus, and particulate matter. By far, the lowest cost is street sweeping. And you see this theme where it's important to capture the streets, the leaves and organics. It's important to maintain your system clean. You prevent the nutrients from getting in. Well, sweeping is $165 per pound. That's if you're talking about capturing of total nitrogen. This is according to his study. Then if you go even a little bit further in, if you go into the pipes, the catch basin cleaning, that's the next lowest cost, but it's already at $1,016. So that's almost 9 times more expensive per pound of TN collected. And in his example with the hydrodynamic separators, this goes up a lot more, right? You're talking about $3,700 per pound of TN collected, according to his study. So think about this when you're making your decisions as far as what to implement. Another important question: what are the expected results? What are you actually doing here? In our case, with our stormwater filters, we're not trying to capture everything, right? Especially not the very, very small things. We're looking at the bigger things like leaves, cigarette butts, straws, paper, plastics. That's important to know. Our solution doesn't do the whole thing. There's no silver bullet. But if somebody asks me, what do we do? Here are some examples of the things that we've actually captured at the storm drain inlets. Then importantly, how can we analyze the results? This is a DEP has this really, really easy to use Excel spreadsheet. You can download it. The link is right there. And essentially you plug in how much you're capturing from different maintenance activities. So if you have, for example, a business or a homeowners association or a city that cares about addressing nutrients issues, this is a very good way to quantify this. So essentially, you plug into one of the sheets the pounds of trash and debris that you're collecting. So for example, in the city of Aventura, in front of our stormwater filters, it's estimated about 38,000 pounds of leaves and trash that they're preventing from getting into the storm drains every year. So we plug in the 38,000 pounds number, and then that translates to total phosphorus and total nitrogen on another sheet of the spreadsheet. So here you see that the city is preventing 14.5 pounds of TP and 30.2 pounds of TN per year from getting into the waterways. This is a really, really big benefit to the city. Then you also have community participation. Right? When you have the QR code storm drain markers, anyone can scan, take a picture. We spoke already a lot about, you saw in the news story. This will help us to then focus more efforts on the block by block level. And hopefully my goal, and I tell this to every customer, I say the goal is not to put our stormwater filters in and forever you're seeing a lot of trash in front of them. That's not the real win. The win is when you put them there, you start noticing that you're capturing a lot of trash, especially on the litter side of things, because that's human behavior. And then you start honing and focusing your strategies at a block by block level and addressing it. And then in the future, you're seeing less trash in front of the filters. The goal is to prevent pollution. Another question is there a financial return on investment? So in our case, there's a net cost savings through time. Of course, there's an upfront investment to implement the solution. But as time goes by, you've shifted now. You've gone from doing a lot of vacuum cleaning for your system because that was the only option. Everything was going inside your pipes and your drains. Now you're sweeping the streets. You have a much lower cost. So in about 5 to 7 years, you have your break-even point, and then after that, you're actually saving money. So this is showing that for every stormwater filter that you're installing, you're helping to save money in the long run. And a lot of vendors, solutions providers, they can help you with this information as well. Another important question is, do you have references and testimonials? Here's another opportunity for you to know who is it that this potential vendor, potential solution provider, whether it's digital or physical, works with. If you see somebody hemming and hawing, they don't want to give you this information, it's because either they don't have positive testimonials or people won't say good things if you contact them. So this is a very important question to ask. In our case, we even put some of these things on our website so that anybody can see them publicly. And a lot of these are in public documents that were in commission meetings. So we're very open about this, and we'll gladly share context with you so you can ask questions. Another important thing, how can you engage with your community? I'm going a little bit faster now because I know we're already 45 minutes in or so. So here we go. I asked a question to several organizations. These were municipalities, nonprofits from many places. And there were some recurring themes in the responses that they gave me. Number one is you want to have long-term multi-stakeholder engagement. So think about, if you're a business like me, what are the nonprofits that care about what I care about? What are other businesses that might care about the same things? If you're a city, what are the local leaders thinking and saying, who are the influencers, right? Especially with these nonprofits, you have a lot of them that have thousands of followers on Instagram, and they can be fantastic allies in your efforts to address problems. Education, you want to educate children and adults because we're talking about human behavior changes in the long run. Resources that you can provide, having very frequent and consistent messaging. So again, these are themes that we obtained when we surveyed all of these different organizations. Connecting with nature, enforcement of the laws, having data for their community, taking action, providing incentives, increasing funding, and also, again, I'll reiterate, there's several solutions to tackle problems. There's no silver bullet. Not one thing is ever going to solve it all, and make it fun, okay? So with that said, there are many opportunities and programs out there. These are several different areas. I won't go into each of these, but in my slides, when you download them later, you'll have over 50 links for each of these, or many links, so you can learn more about these programs from around the United States. So how do you take that first step in finding those partners? Right? You know that partnerships are important. Easy. Google, let's say you're in Tampa, Tampa surf rider, water keeper, river keeper, volunteer cleanup, environmental groups. That will quickly give you a list of some potential organizations you can work with. You have local sustainability and environmental committees. Ask the chair of that committee, hey, you know, we want to do something. We're not really sure where to start. We want to potentially work with you guys. What are you doing? Let's have a meeting. It's an easy first step. Then there are also some global organizations. Again, here are links. So when you download this, you'll have these links available. And each one of these organizations has several chapters in Florida. So you're able to quickly find somebody that you need. On the community participation side of things, this is, again, we're focusing on the QR code storm drain markers a bit. This is where we're helping to engage somebody in the moment. When they're at the storm drain, they can scan, they can learn, and they can share a photo of what they're seeing. This, in turn, will then allow you to get this image and put it on social media and say, hey, look at what Jane said. She's spotting at the storm drain. We're preventing this from getting into the waterways. So you multiply your message. And other cities, San Francisco, for example, has an adopted drain program. And here are all links so you can learn a little bit more about them. Okay, so we've gone on for several minutes. So here's another poll. How can the remainder of this? Yep, go ahead, Colleen.
So here's the question, and what we're asking everyone is kind of an interactive question. So we're kind of seeing what you guys want to learn more about in the next couple of minutes that Amelia will be with us. So let's go ahead and open up that polling question. And again, you have about a minute to go ahead and answer it. If you need to answer in the chat area, you're more than welcome to do that. There's about 3 different options, what you kind of want to learn a little bit more about. And like we said, we're going to try to wrap this up right around 10 o'clock so we don't keep you guys any longer. South Florida Aquatic Plant Management, again, wants to thank everyone for being here. I know we have a whole mixture of people, not only aquatic applicators, Emilio, but we have the code officers here from the Broward County area. We have people up and down the state, just looking at a bunch of the emails that had come through. So we want to thank you guys, even though you're not necessarily in the aquatic day-to-day aquatic resource type profession. You're here willing to learn about, you know, what we do on a daily basis and the environmental impact on our storm drains. Not a lot of people know about what, you know, what it entails. So, okay, so we're going to go ahead. It's a minute and the poll. It seems like a lot of people want, it's kind of a mixture, but more details about selecting technologies for stormwater. The last option, Emilio, is what a majority of everyone kind of wants to hear about.
Okay, great. So first I'll quickly answer some of the specific questions in Q&A, and then I'll get to that on the selecting of technologies. So here, Rivero Alfredo in the Q&A, is there any future plan, there are plans to filter or be able to contain dirty water going into the bay? For example, gas, oil leaks from vehicles or other polluted solutions. On our end, from a research and development standpoint, in the sense of developing materials, we're not doing that. But I know that there are different solutions providers for that. There are different absorbents that can be used, and we just haven't tested them ourselves. But this is definitely something that can be part of a longer term strategy For now, we focus on the larger things because those still allow for a high flow rate of water, and we're preventing the floods and the cost of maintenance and all that. But that is something that if the county and others are interested in, I can definitely share some resources. Jay, I live in Lee County in Hillsborough, and people in Lee are cleaner than Hillsborough because I'm always cleaning the storm drain ditch in Hillsborough, and people in Hillsborough are nasty. How can you help? Well, I hope that with your community outreach efforts, this is a way to share, the do's and don'ts, right? Why should you do things, not do things? I think a great way to help with this community awareness is to, join forces with their environmental organizations that are out there and that are helping to educate the public so that they change the behavior. Behavior change is really hard, but it is something that can happen with consistent messaging and education. Lauren, are there plans to expand to Palm Beach County and other counties in Florida? If so, what is the timeline for that? Yes, and it really depends on who's interested in implementing our solutions. Like I said, we have Australia, a customer over there. We have a customer now in Maryland. So in terms of expansion, this is actually rather easy. So if there's interest in your community, we're more than happy to go there. We can easily, go take measurements, install the stormwater filters. There's no problem there in terms of geographic distance. The city of Key West, that's further away from Palm Beach County, has been using our product since 2016. Heather, you mentioned the sheer volume and negative impact of smaller particles, microplastics, in our waterways, and the harm they cause to marine life. Since these stormwater filters and baskets capture larger debris, what is the solution for preventing the microplastics from getting through? So in our case, we're stopping the macro plastics, the larger things, so that they don't become micro. But there are other ways also to address microplastics, potentially using additional screens afterwards. So think about, for example, your Brita filter at home, right? You first, within the filter, it captures bigger things and then it goes smaller and smaller and smaller. So there are secondary, tertiary solutions that you may be able to implement so that, our screen that captures the big things allows those other screens then to capture the smaller things and not get clogged. So you can implement multiple solutions at once. What technology do you have for catching debris with a plastic flow liner drainage system? So this is from an anonymous attendee. I'm actually not exactly sure what you mean by that, but if you want to send me an email, I'm more than happy to see what may be out there to help meet that specific need. Ida, how do nature-based solutions such as bioswales compare with these gray solutions in removing contaminants? So I'm actually a huge proponent of a green infrastructure and swales. That's actually a fantastic way, and in many ways better way to address stormwater issues. Right? If you can minimize the amount of water that's actually flowing out into your canals, into your lakes, that is good. That's a good thing. So these nature-based solutions, I think in some cases are much better. They do cost a lot more money initially when you're planning. Maybe for new infrastructure, I would say really think about that, about preventing the amount of volume of water that you have to discharge into the waters. But for retrofitting, there may be different options. So Wendy, back to Heather's, how is debris removed from the front of the filters? So Wendy, this is just with street sweeping, regular street sweeping that keeps our screens cleaned. There's no media that you have to swap out or change. In some cases, if you have, for example, regular manual cleaning, I know the city of Aventura has this, their landscaping staff or their contractors, they're already doing landscaping in the area. They'll also sweep in front of the inlets. So they try to use everything that they can to make sure their city is very clean, but then also that they're capturing things as often and quickly as possible. You don't have to use anything like a pressure cleaner, for example. But if you have one and you see that it might be beneficial, you can go ahead and do that too. Okay, so focusing now on the main question here. So Colleen, the question was about, just see if I can escape from the slides here, selecting different options, right? The Colleen, on time, it's already 9:58. Is it okay that that I speak a couple more minutes here?
Yeah, a couple more minutes would be fine. That black screen is back.
Okay, let me see if I can take it away now.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so a little bit more about selecting these different solutions. I would say a lot of this starts off with your goals. As you saw in the Q&A, there were questions about what specifically do your screens capture, not capture. There were questions about microplastics. There were questions about oils and fuels. We don't do everything. We don't actually intend with these products right here to stop everything at the inlet. So think about these goals that you have in mind, and then you can find different solutions providers depending on these goals. So let's say you want to capture the big stuff, the leaves and the plastics and the organics before they get into the drain. And you also want to capture the oils and other contaminants. Maybe you can have a multi-pronged approach to these solutions. So your goals is really what's going to help you determine the type of solution that you're implementing, and asking a lot of these other questions that we have here. So it might be a more iterative process where you have meetings internally. You also contact different municipalities near you and ask them what they think about different solutions. Then once you have these meetings with these different solutions providers, ask them what they do, what they don't do, and why and how, then that will help you navigate and find a good mix of solutions. Again, our products do not do everything. No product does everything, but I think the combination of solutions is really what we're talking about, really having the big win, including, of course, the collaboration with the community and these different organizations that are out there. I know that was quick, but we're running out of time, so I hope that at least was a little bit helpful for you. And I'll go now to the final thought, so we can be aware of everybody's time here. So one final thought for you. I know there was a lot of information shared here, but it all starts with one step. Okay, so here is a Chinese philosopher saying from many years ago, I think it was 500 BC, around that era. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And that's how it is, right? So if there was something here that spoke to you, that makes you think, you know, I want to take a step to doing that, or maybe I want to accomplish this very large goal, but I need to take my first step. That's all it really starts with, is that one step. And to that end, we have a survey for you. And this is more of an action survey. And one of the questions here, we'll also send you this via email. Colleen will send it, or I can send it via email. It's a survey that's going to ask you, what action do you plan to take as a result of this webinar? And then it's going to ask you, when do you want me, Emilio, to follow up with you? So I can be your accountability partner on this and help you. So if you say in that survey, check in with me within 30 to 60 days on this specific action that I mentioned, then I'll check in with you. Once you fill out that survey, your email is requested in the beginning. It will automatically email you your own response. So you have that as a reminder. So again, all it takes is the first step. Thank you very much. That's all I have to share. Colleen, is there anything on your end that you wanted to share with the group?
Okay, this is Andy. No, yes, thank you, Emilio. That was great. We really appreciate your time, and from the comments, everyone really enjoyed it. So that's spectacular. The presentation and the CU certificates are going to go out to everyone in the email that they registered with after the presentation. So look for that in the near future, which will also have Emilio's contact information, so you could fill out that survey. Also, you could scan it and fill it out also with the barcode on there right there. And again, thank you for the over 200 people who joined us this morning. That's spectacular. And we hope to see everyone in February, and we can hopefully set up some more of these as well. So thank you, everyone, and have a great morning.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Colleen, Andy, and everybody that participated and listened in. I appreciate all of you.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.